If you zoom into Southwest Florida on Google Earth, you'll notice a distinct pattern, an almost perfect grid etched into the swamplands just east of Naples, intersections every quarter mile, and remnants of canals. To find out about the origins of this mysterious grid, we have to travel back several decades to the 1960s when a major developer by the name of Gulf American Land Corporation started draining the swampland for what was advertised as the largest residential subdivision in the world. Soon after, they would begin an aggressive marketing campaign to seek buyers. Advertisements flooded newspapers in the north to attract buyers, most of which would never actually see the land they were purchasing. For those who had the time to visit, tours were hosted, complete with presentations, lunch, and potential buyers were even taken on a plane ride over the land. According to a Sentinel article from 1992, rooms where the buyer met with sales reps were bugged to listen to any concerns a spouse might have so that they could resolve it at a future discussion. Talk about some shady practices. There's also a story of a Miami Herald reporter going undercover on one of these trips. In a September 16, 1962 article, he wrote, quote, "Our request to go out and see the property from ground level was readily accepted several times, but we never got there. First, we had to make the flight, then the Naples tour, and finally, we just didn't have time." And also from the air, it was obvious why salesmen might hesitate to show Golden Gate Estates from the ground. Most of the acreage pointed out as belonging to Gulf American was underwater. This subdivision will be called Southern Golden Gate Estates, encompassing 85 square miles or 55,000 acres. Roads were built, canals were dug to redirect the flow of water away from the land they were selling, but that's about as far as the progress would get. The project ultimately failed for several reasons. First, the land was still susceptible to flooding, especially in the rainy season, which is why they'd fly people over this area only during the winter months. The developer's shady practices were also heavily scrutinized, including by the Federal Trade Commission and the Florida Land Sales Board. In 1967, Gulf American pleaded guilty to 5 violations brought by the board, including unethical sales practices and lot switching. They were ordered to stop selling land for 30 days, and a 5-member supervisory panel selected by the board but paid for by Gulf American was appointed to oversee the company for 150 days. Then there was also the public outcry about obvious environmental damage from this development, leading to the state of Florida purchasing the land in the 1980s, and in 1995 it became an official state forest. Now the project wasn't entirely a failure. Today we do have Northern Golden Gate Estates, which lies north of I-75 and sits slightly on more elevated terrain. Using the United States Geological Survey site, we can see the elevation increase as we go north of the project site. It's not a crazy amount, but it is the reason why we see houses to the north and nothing to the south. According to Collier County records, that area didn't take off until the 1990s through 2006. The reason for eventually taking off was attributed to affordability or lifestyle choices, since it's pretty remote out there. Take a look at this spacious property sitting on just over 2 acres with a massive driveway. It's going for $398,400, a price tag unheard of in big cities like Miami. This failed project made for a costly $8 billion restoration project that would attempt to reverse its effects, plugging more than 40 miles of canals, removing 285 miles of roads, and building 3 pump stations. This was endeavored by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers from 2007 through 2026. There was, however, one aspect of the restoration project that made international headlines. One homeowner refused to sell his land. In 1976, Jesse James Hardy purchased 100 acres for $60,000 just north of what is now the Faca Union pump station. He loved having total privacy and being away from civilization. I don't blame him. His explanation for living alone was detailed in a July 2004 Miami Herald article. He's quoted saying, "After years of having to live around so many people and dealing with crime and race riots and all that, I decided I needed to find a place where I could be left alone." Hardy's piece, however, came to an end in 2002 when the state decided they wanted to buy his land as part of the restoration project. He was offered $711,725, to which he refused, setting off a years-long battle. 2 years later, in 2004, the state increased their offer to $4.5 million, and still he refused. That prompted then Governor Jeb Bush to begin eminent domain proceedings to acquire the land through the courts. A year later, in 2005, Hardy's lawyers advised him to sell, and they reached a settlement with the state for $4.95 million. And looking back at Google Earth's historical imagery, we can see his property disappears between 2006 and 2007 as the restoration project kicked off. We're now going to drive 2 hours west of Miami to Picayune Strand State Forest to not only get a closer view from above, but also explore what's left of one of Florida's most infamous failed developments. We have just made it to the Picayune Strand State Forest here in the middle of nowhere, Collier County. We're just east of Naples, Florida, by the way. We're gonna go in that direction. That is where the Southern Golden Gate Estates development was expected to be completed. All the way down there, it is now again a state forest. I-75 is right over there. Those cars that you see zooming by, that is Interstate 75. I want to show you guys this sign here before we get into there, by the way. We're going to go a little off-road. Fortunately, I brought my brand new scooter, which is made for going off-road. It says rough road ahead, high water may make impassable, use caution. that goes to show you just how low-lying this area is. And I'm going to check on my watch to see the elevation. I'm very curious. Getting really low to ground level. I don't know if you guys can read that. It says 4 feet, 3 feet now. Hovering between 3 and 4 feet. We have made it to the entrance sign to Picayune Strand State Forest, aka the failed development from the 1960s. I'm very curious to see what the rest of the park looks like. If we just head down this road going east and then hit Naomi Street, go south, we make it to Mr. Hardy's property where he used to live before the state of Florida brought him to court to get rid of his property and buy him out so they can restore this entire area. This is one of many roads. Every half mile or so, you've got another intersection, a perfect grid as you guys saw from the satellite imagery. We're standing near one of the intersections right over here. So they had to remove all of the roadways, and what you're left with is just a dirt path. This signage lets us know that this is one of the very few places where the rare Florida panthers live. We got to make sure we keep an eye out for Florida panthers and stay out of their way. Look at this. It's huge. Look at everything it just picked up. Going through the forest, it looks pretty cool. Check out how nice this is. You imagine they would have torn all of this down just to sell the land? And this would have been some kind of residential community. It looks pretty cool as it is now. Ah! Oh my God, the road is so bumpy here. Okay, we just finished the first leg of the off-roading. We're now over one of the larger canals, looking directly south and then north, which is where I-75 cuts through just down over there. If I hold the camera still, you can see the water flowing. Just look at that piece of trash on the bottom right corner. You see it flowing. As we continue down that way, according to the Google Maps imagery, we will see this canal here plugged. It'll be plugged and none of the water will be flowing as you go further down. So over here we are seeing that it's just a normal canal. This would have continued all the way down over there as it continues this way, but we should see it plugged in that direction. I'm very curious to see what that looks like from the ground. All right, I'm trying to film this one-handed, so if I get a really big rock, I'm probably gonna wipe out. So far, I'm pretty much the only person out here. Crazy, I can't even see the end of this trail.
I'm sorry, extension number 2.
I am not entirely sure if I'm able to go this way. I mean, the sign would imply no, but it says on structures or in fenced areas. I don't know if they're giving people a heads up that there is a fenced area, which is that pump station over there. The glare is horrible, so I'm gonna screen record this and just overlay it over my phone. You guys can see that I am right over here. And this trail here, I've already plugged in the coordinates to Mr. Hardy's home where his property used to be, and it is just down over here. And then you can see where he mined the limestone right over there, and even over here too, because if we go back into the Google Earth imagery for the past decades, you'll see that this expands before his property was claimed. So this, by the way, is just right over there. I'm walking on the path that Mr. Hardy would have taken every day to go to his home. It is so peaceful out here. I can see why someone would want to live here, away from civilization. I mean, this is as far away from people as you'll get. Remember, this was not a state forest or attraction or place to hike back in the day. I think those are vultures. It appears so. I'm not sure if I'm in danger or not. Actually, I feel like I'm surrounded. There's one up there, one up there, one over there. I brought a little something to show you guys. So this is a newspaper article from when he was battling with the state of Florida. You can see him walking right by his property. It says owner fights state to keep land. You can see him right in front of the quarry where he mined limestone rock and had a business essentially from mining that. Before we get there, I want to show you guys, I'm gonna get as close as I can to where Mr. Hardy was mining that limestone. This was not here before his existence. He created this, and that was a business that he had. It's pretty sizable, but it is larger to the south where they built the pump station around. So Google says vultures, or at least turkey vultures, the kind that I am seeing, are harmless and essentially scared of anything larger than a mouse. So I should be good. All right, so we're just gonna follow this path here. Hopefully there's nothing crazy in the grass. Keep you guys in frame there with the map. Hopefully I steer clear of crazy stuff. All right, so you can see we're facing in the direction. We see a little bit of openness over here. This would have been his property. It would have been right there. They have since, of course, removed it after seizing it and reaching a settlement with him, really, for over $4 million. Now this belongs to the state. This would have been his front porch view. Very quiet, peaceful. We would have had a lot of properties just like this had the project actually taken off. So in a sense, it would have not been as peaceful as it is now had the development actually came to fruition. He would have been surrounded by other people. There would have been traffic jams, possibly. Modern roads, things that he was really trying to stay away from. I am standing in front of one of many canals that were created for this development project in the 1960s. This one, if you continue following it several hundred feet south of where I'm at right now, it gets plugged up and it actually becomes part of the pump station that was constructed as part of that restoration project. You see the path to the right of me, left of you guys, that is one of many roads that were basically paved for this subdivision project. They have since removed everything that would resemble a appropriate road, and now it is off-roading basically, which is why I've struggled to get here on my scooter. But this was not like this back in the day when they were trying to get this thing going. And then folks would come here on airplanes that they were basically flying people over several, I believe a little over 1,000 feet above this land in the dry season. And so you wouldn't be able to see how flood prone this was if you go in a time where there's not really afternoon storms, daily storms like we get in the summer months. Okay, it turns out you can go past that point because the actual pump station is fenced off. So this area turns into a trail that goes somewhere back there. But I want to get close to here because I want to show you guys. This is the canal that I was riding parallel to. It goes into this, which he created most of this back in the day. But you can see that would have continued and continued. And here's where we see the first of a series of plugs that are stopping that canal and basically redirecting it to this pump station over here. That's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and found it as interesting as I did. This is something I've been working on for the past couple of weeks. All the sources and details will be in the description down below if you want to read up more about it. Let me know what you guys think about this. Did you know about this project? And I consider this like a follow-up to the one I made about the Venetian islands that were going to be constructed back in the day and ultimately did not. That is a little bit closer to home for me, between Miami and Miami Beach. I'll link that video in the description or somewhere on the screen so you guys can see it. Another failed development, another one that was advertised to people from out of town and just never came to fruition. So it's a good follow-up to this video. But again, let me know in the comments what you guys thought about this project, the history of it all, and the fight of Mr. Hardy against the state that really he ended up losing. So yeah, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. It helps the algorithm push this out to other people who may enjoy this type of content. Subscribe and hit the bell button. You'll be notified each time I upload a new video. And with that said, signing off from the middle of nowhere. Actually, right now I'm in northern Golden Gate Estates, just north of I-75. Signing off from here. I'll catch you in the next one. We are just north of I-75 to the land that was developed, and we were getting a 15-foot reading north of here. I'm trying to get as close to the ground as possible. So there you have it. This is the elevation in northern Golden Gate Estates. It is 14 to 15 feet in elevation. I'll put up on the screen a comparison to what I got at the southern Golden Gate Estates, where the project failed partly because of the elevation.